If you're watching this because you've been given the responsibility of planning a loved one's funeral, first let me say I'm truly sorry for your loss. I want to acknowledge the emotional weight of what you're facing. Planning a funeral isn't just about logistics, it's about navigating grief while trying to honor someone you cared about. And you might be asking yourself, what is the right way to plan a funeral? And the answer is there's no perfect way to do this. Every funeral is different, every family is different. At the same time, there are common funeral structures used across the country that can help you guide your decisions. Some families choose a one-day service, others may spread it across 2 or 3 days with a viewing, a service, a burial, and time for loved ones to gather, share stories, eat together, or simply be present with one another. Cultural and religious traditions may also shape how those days look. The most important thing is this. Don't ask yourself if you're doing this the right way. There isn't one single formula that fits every family. What matters most is that the choices you make feel right for your loved one and for you. And please know it's okay to step back and take breaks. This process can be draining. Ask friends or family to help, whether it's with decisions or just being present. You don't have to do this alone. Some of the first steps that you should take after a loved one passes. Before you start planning anything, there's one step that many people understandably don't realize they'll need to take right away. You'll need to confirm where your loved one is currently being cared for. If they pass in a hospital, hospice, nursing home, or even at home, they may have been transferred to another facility like a morgue or a coroner's office, depending on the situation. In my own experience, I had to call the hospital first to confirm my loved one was there. Then I had to pass that information to the funeral home, details like their full name, the social security, to make sure everything matched before any arrangements were made. It's a moment that can feel heavy, and I want to remind you it's okay to ask someone you trust to help with this call if you're not ready. So first, confirm your loved one's location. Then make sure that whoever's receiving them, whether it's a funeral home, a church, or a cemetery, has the right information. Even one phone call can make a big difference. Also, before your loved one is transferred to a funeral home, church, or any location as part of the funeral process, ask how long they can hold your loved one without additional charges. Some places include a limited holding period in their base fee, but if the arrangements take longer than expected, extra daily charges can add up quickly. So make sure you know the policy ahead of time before the transfer happens so you're not caught off guard later. We'll talk next about pre-need versus immediate at-need arrangements. Before we get into funeral costs or services, there's one important distinction to make. Are you planning in advance, or are you responding to a loss that just happened? You'll often hear two common terms used in the funeral industry: pre-need arrangements and immediate, also called at-need arrangements. Pre-need means planning ahead, before a death has occurred. You might be choosing a funeral home, setting up payment plans, or documenting personal wishes. This kind of planning gives you control over how things will be handled, and it can be a gift to your family by sparing them from tough decisions later on. If you're watching this for yourself or helping a loved one prepare in advance, you're taking a proactive and compassionate step. At need means making arrangements right after someone has passed away. It's an emotional time. You may be expected to make big decisions within a very small time frame. Choosing a funeral home, deciding on burial or cremation, planning a service, it's a lot all at once. And one important thing to know is this: in most cases, funeral homes require full payment upfront before any services are provided. And this may also be true for other locations or services related to the funeral as well. That can be a shock for families who weren't prepared financially. Some places may accept life insurance assignments or offer short-term financing, but many expect immediate payment. And if that's where you are right now, please know, pause, gather information, and ask questions. You don't have to have every answer right away. Reach out to someone you trust. Make one call at a time and focus on the next clear step. Now that you know which path you're on, let's walk through what a typical funeral might cost and how these costs can vary. And so we're going to understand a funeral costs that are reflected for 2026. Planning a funeral is not only emotionally taxing, it can also be financially overwhelming. So let's break down the typical costs involved so you can make informed decisions during your planning. As of 2026, the national median cost in the United States for a traditional funeral with viewing and burial is approximately $8,300. A funeral with viewing and cremation has a national median cost of approximately $6,280. And in larger metropolitan areas in higher cost states, it's not uncommon for traditional funerals to exceed $10,000 to $15,000 or more dollars, especially once cemetery costs, permits, extended family hours, and personalizations are added. Here's where those costs often come from: basic service fees from the funeral home, transportation, preparation and care, use of the facilities for viewing or ceremony, the casket or the urn, burial vaults if they're required, the burial plot and the opening and closing of the grave, the headstone or the marker, the printed materials like program or prayer cards, flowers and photo displays, and reception or refreshments after the service. These are the most basic services, and costs will increase as you begin adding more services or creating something special that reflects your loved one, such as live music, additional cultural or religious items, personalized displays, or even requiring more time in the day, since some places like funeral homes may charge for additional hours. But please don't get overwhelmed. Again, this is only a list of what is commonly seen in funerals, not a list of what you're required to do. And costs vary widely depending on location, provider, and the choices you make. That's why it's important to request a detailed price list from the funeral home or any location or provider related to the funeral before committing. We'll cover common funeral terms that you'll hear. Before we talk about different type of services, it helps to understand a few key terms you'll likely hear. A service is the main ceremony where family and friends gather to honor the person's life. A viewing or visitation is a time set aside before the service for people to pay their respects and say goodbye. A memorial is similar to a funeral service, but the person is not physically present. A graveyard service takes place at the burial site and is usually shorter, and the committal or burial refers to the final moment where your loved one is placed in their final resting place. Understanding these terms makes it easier to navigate conversations with funeral homes and family members. Next, let's talk about eulogy and speeches. Before we move into the different type of funeral services, I want to pause on one part of funerals that often carry a lot of emotional weight: the eulogy. A eulogy is a speech or message meant to honor your loved one's life, their personality, their values, and the memories they left behind. But one thing I want to make it very clear is this: a eulogy is not required. While it is common in many funerals or memorial services, it is always a personal decision based on family preference, cultural traditions, or religious practices. A service can still be deeply meaningful through music, prayers, scripture, photo displays, quiet reflection, or a minister's message without anyone giving a formal speech. If a eulogy is included, it is usually given by a close family member, a close friend, a clergy member, or sometimes the funeral director. Most are around 3 to 5 minutes, though there really isn't any strict rule. And I especially want to say this for anyone feeling pressure: it is completely okay not to speak. If speaking at a parent or loved one's funeral feels too overwhelming, that is completely understandable. Your grief does not need to be proven through a speech. If you want your words shared but don't feel emotionally ready, a trusted friend, family member, minister, or funeral director can read a prepared statement on your behalf. Some religious traditions may also place limits on when or where a eulogy is given. In some cases, it may happen at a wake, vigil, or gathering before or after the formal religious service instead of during it. Again, this depends on family, culture, and faith tradition. At the end of the day, the purpose of the funeral is to honor your loved one in a way that brings comfort to the living. Whether that includes a eulogy, music, shared stories, prayers, or quiet presence, The structure should support what your family needs, not what anyone else expects. Now let's go into the type of funeral services. There's no right way to honor someone's life. What matters is what feels meaningful to your family. A traditional funeral typically includes a viewing, a formal service, and burial. Cremation, followed by a memorial service, offers more flexibility in time and in cost. Direct burial or direct cremation is often a simpler option without a formal service, often chosen for financial or personal reasons. And some families choose green or natural burials, focusing on environmental considerations. Others follow specific religious or cultural traditions that shape the service. Each option carries different costs and emotional considerations. Choose what aligns with your values and circumstances. And as a reminder, there's no right way to do this. You can use the time during these events to do what you like with respect to your loved one and family. So planning ahead, steps to take. If you're planning ahead, there's real value in taking that step. It gives clarity and reduces future stress for your family. Start by documenting your wishes, talk openly with your family, explore prepayment options carefully, and keep important documents organized and accessible. And designate someone you trust to carry out your plan. Planning ahead doesn't remove the emotions, but it can remove uncertainty. Now, if you made it this far, I want to say thank you, because I know this isn't an easy topic to sit with, let alone navigate in real life. Whether you're planning right now, thinking ahead, or supporting someone else, you're doing something incredibly difficult. My hope is that this video gave you some clarity and some direction. You'll find helpful resources in the description below, including a funeral planning checklist, a guide for documenting final wishes, and information on grief support and assistance programs as well that are out there to help with some expenses and other things you can look into. If there's one thing I'd leave you with, it's this. You're doing something incredibly difficult, and there's no perfect way to do it. Funerals don't come with a universal formula. What works for one family might not work for the other. So if you're feeling pressure to get everything just right, let that go. Whether you're overwhelmed, unsure, or just trying to hold it all together, it's okay to take things one step at a time. Planning a funeral is never just about logistics. It's about love, memory, and doing the best you can with what you have.